Congratulations on everyone making it to, we're almost halfway to the class, through this class. And so we only have two more quizzes left. So you got the week 5 quiz this week, you have the week 5 quiz, and the week 5 peer review. So how are you doing, guys? Carolyn, Anil, everything good?
Doing good, Doc.
Any questions yet before I start the
Yeah, I do have a question. On the quiz, question number 6. Okay.
yeah.
Um, it said that I got it wrong because the Jason Bourne on that is not in italics. So I chose the answer for none of the above, but it says that it was wrong.
Okay, I'll look at your quiz as soon as I finish this lecture. Hold on, let me go get my notes. For
Okay.
the first time I didn't have notes, so let's see if I can find where my notes are. Let's see, 12-week session, and this is week 5, writing in, it's this one, and then it's this one. There we go. So hopefully I can now find my way back to, now I gotta find my way back to your Zoom session, which I can't seem to find my way back to the Zoom session. Let's see, here, 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 here. Nope, that's not it. That's it, okay. So, what was I saying? So Carolyn, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Professor. I enjoy all your tips and notes. It's easy for me to understand. I'm in shock that I have the grade that I have in English. I've never had that grade in English, even in high school.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I was going to use your paper as the model paper for your class. I used Jed's paper for the model paper for his class. I don't think you guys are in the same class. One of you is in section 1 and one of you is in section 12. Can't remember which is which. So I'm going to do the Carolyn Shaw paper. I already did the Jed paper for as a model. I always do one student from each class, usually, so that they can
Thank you.
see. Yeah, you're welcome. And as for the Jason Bourne question, yes, that has been a problem. Whatchamacallit. But Jason Bourne is not I believe that's not the actual movie title. That's the name of the character.
No, actually, I looked it up. There's a movie called Jason Bourne.
There is a movie called Jason Bourne. You know, when I was looking at that quiz question, I was
Uh-huh.
thinking about, okay, Jason Bourne. Now that's a character name, right? I kept thinking, is that also a movie? I kept thinking, did they make a mistake? Should I report this? And that was the one I just could not quite, because I do remember Jason Bourne is actually a character name. But then when it appeared as in Jason Bourne, they make it sound like a movie title, and I was like, why would they do that? Why would they
But
put
see,
it that way?
the question states that in Jason Bourne, so and so said this.
Exactly. That's why when I saw that question, I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then I just let it go for the time being. But
Hmm.
yeah, so technically, I'll give you the credit for that particular question. That's basically all I can do. Then then I got to report that saying that Jason Bourne needs to be italicized. Someone forgot to italicize it. Otherwise, it's a correct question. And then they got to change the correct. It happens a lot. Anyway, so if you see any other mistakes, you can report it to me, and then I can report it to the curriculum who wrote it up. Okay? I saw a lot of mistakes in the past. I thought it had all been fixed. Anyway, any other questions? No? Okay, so now I'm going to start my, let's see, share screen. You're going to see a lot of junk. Let's see, share. There you go. And so for this, for this lecture, week 5, I'm going to talk about academic nurse writing. In other words, what kind of writing can you expect as a nurse, especially as you go up in your college career? Now let's see if I can get this to work. Now I'm not a nurse, so I wouldn't know what kind of writing nurses do, but as I did my research and I read a book, there are a lot of books written by nurses where they talk about their experiences writing as they did their bachelor's, their master's, and a PhD. So, and then they went on to become a nurse instructor after 20 some odd years working in a hospital. So here you get, so that's why in the future, if you want, you could also write a book about your experiences. So what I found astounding is that it's very similar to the kind of writing teachers write, because there's only 8 different ways in which one writes in English. So I'm going to upload that video where I talk about the 8 different kinds of essay types that everybody writes, regardless of your field. Okay, so for nurses, these are the different kinds of writing according to the nursing book. I have it at the very end of this PowerPoint, what nursing book I got it from. I actually bought it off Amazon. Anyway, so clinical reflective writing, case studies, research critiques, literature review, advocacy writing, clinical practice guidelines, clinical practice articles, and conference presentations. A lot of this I do as well, except for my field. In clinical reflective writing, it would be teaching reflective writing or classroom reflective writing, so it would be the same thing. Case studies are the same, it's students. Research critiques are the same. Literature review is also the same. Advocacy writing for us, teachers, it would be education. For you guys, it would be medicine. And clinical practice would be best teaching practices for me. Okay, in other words, what is the best teaching practices that I would advise other teachers based on my experience in the classroom? What teaching experiences would be best for you guys would be what nursing treatments, what it is to be a good nurse. And then you, the senior nurse, will write an article. Your audience could either be junior nurses or nurses of the same level, in which you outline the best treatment for such and such an ailment. When I did this was such and such and such and such, and then I used such and such a medicine and such and such. So clinical practice is similar to teaching practice, where I talk about best teaching practices. Conference presentations is that you go to a conference, nursing conference, and you present your research. You have a research proposal, and your research proposal is very similar to a problem solution paper. I'm going to go over that in, I believe, week 11, when I teach you how to write a research proposal for a conference presentation. Then I'm going to go in length, because that's what I did when I wrote my master's. So it's the same social science. I majored in linguistics, which is a social science. I also majored in English and humanities, which is done differently. But anyway, so these are the kinds of writings you are going to, and also when you do a PowerPoint, right after you tell everybody what your title page is, then you write, this is like your thesis statement in a paper. You're going to write an agenda slide where you're going to tell everybody, this is what my entire presentation is about. This is very similar to your thesis statement. All right, now you're going to start out the components of good nursing writing. In the book, Writing for Nurses, a brief guide, this is where I got it from, Thomas Long and Cheryl Beck, they discuss the 3 components of good writing for nurses. You need to have credibility, care, and competency. Credibility means that you are an experienced nurse. You know what you're doing, and you can use credible evidence for your paper. Care means that you care about, you're a caring nurse, and you can use great descriptive language to show your passion for the field. Competency means that you know your essay structure. You can have a cogent thesis statement with matching topic sentences. And you thought you only used this in my English class. No, you're going to use the 5-paragraph structure everywhere for the rest of your life. And you also have to, competency also means that you write an essay free of fallacies and no grammar errors. When you have credibility, care, and competency, that's similar to ethos, pathos, and logos. And when you have all 3 of these, then you have a good piece of writing. And so what is the heart of nurse writing according to Thomas Long? In biology or chemistry, basic research purpose is increased knowledge. In other words, you research a phenomenon, and then basically what you're going to do as a nurse, when you do nurse writing, is you're going to read all of these complicated medical research articles, which you're already doing in your other classes. Then you're going to simplify those articles for the public. Okay, you don't have to, if you're writing, it depends on your audience. If you're writing for the general public, you have to simplify everything of what the articles in those complicated articles, medical articles say. But if you're writing for other nurses, you can comment your opinion on whether that article is cogent or not cogent, or whether they have a good argument or not a good argument. So it depends on your audience who you write to. And so basically you're going to be translating a scientific body of knowledge into your argument, or you're translating it like a what is definition essay where you're defining what something is for the general public. It's kind of like what Dr. Fauci used to do when he would have to simplify what he's saying for the public. Okay, clinical reflective writing. This is when you think deeply about what you're doing. So let's say you're on the floor and you're giving a patient a treatment, and then after it's over, the end of the day, if you're still not so tired, you sit back and you reflect, what could I have done to do it better? And then you can write it all out. This becomes one of your articles. You could write a journal in a nursing journal saying, I was with X and Y patient. And this is known as clinical reflective writing, is when you think back to see what you could do that's better, and how you can do better at your job, and how you could teach the younger nurses what to do. And so this is reflective writing. Also is when you write your end of class survey and you reflect back on how well this class is, and you give feedback to me on how I can improve my teaching. So it's all about reflective, that's teaching, practice reflective writing. And when have you engaged in reflective writing? Have you ever thought back how you could improve your job performance? Carolyn, have you ever thought back, I could have done this better or that better?
Yes, ma'am, I have on several occasions.
And what about you, Anil? Have you sitting down and written it out for other nurses to follow suit?
Well, not in nursing, but in other fields, yes.
What other fields were you in?
Well, I was a team leader in a special ops team in the Army. So obviously there's always a review after everything gets done. So I've done it in that situation. And
they call it an after action assessment?
After action review, yes.
Yes,
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I know that from the military school that I was teaching at. Okay, so when have you engaged in, okay, so that's one kind of writing.
Mhm.
Case studies. Now, case studies means, what is case studies, just in case you already know what this is? Carolyn, what is a case study?
Isn't it basically where it's about a patient and they're going over that patient's
Yes.
history and stuff?
Yes, if you want to use your patient as an example. For example, if I say Donna is a cancer patient, she now breathes through a ventilator because she was smoking cigarettes, and now all of her lungs and everything is all ruined. The only way that Donna can breathe is through that ventilator. Now Donna is doing a commercial. I use this example somewhere else, in which she's trying to tell people, don't smoke, or you're going to end up like, well, anyway, so whenever you use a patient as an example to prove your point, that's for me, it's students. I use students as examples when I want to say I love teaching, because one time when I was teaching Jennifer, and then she learned to read in English for the very first time, that's a case study. So when you talk about one patient case, so case studies are stories about actual people to add interest to your paper. So you can put case studies after you put your topic sentence, then you put case study to prove your point, and then you go on to the next paragraph. Or you can use a case study in your introduction right before your thesis statement in order to add context to your thesis statement. And so for nurses, and this was in that book by Thomas Long, so this is a very good way to add interest to your paper. Another kind of writing, so have you used case studies in your writing?
I don't think I've ever used case studies in my writing. I do know that we use on our computer-based learning at the hospital where I work, when we have things that we have to do to keep up with all the laws and all that stuff, they use case studies we read the case study, and then we have to answer questions.
Yeah, I think when you study psychology, they use a lot of case studies because psychology is made just for case studies. You would say Brenda has depression, and then or Joe has ADHD, and then you teach the psychologist how to deal with patients with different ailments. So I almost majored in psychology, by the way, instead of English. Okay, another kind of writing is research critiques. This is when you read someone else's paper and you critique that person's paper. You critique that person's research. And you critique whether or not that study is valid or invalid. And if you critique a article and you say that that study is valid, that means that that study has gone through your peer review and it becomes a peer-reviewed article and it adds value to that article. It's similar to a movie that gets good ratings or bad ratings, because you're critiquing that movie, or the movie reviewer is critiquing the movie. And it's just like the peer review forums where you have to evaluate the weaknesses and strengths of each other's paper. You have to make sure that that research study is valid. Now, I'm going to go over this in another presentation, but how can you tell if a research study is valid?
Whether or not the facts are true.
How can you tell that the facts are true?
Do your own research. I mean, that's
Yes.
I just had a couple of weeks ago for my boss asked my opinion of something, and I told him, and he said, "Well, let's do some research on it." And I don't even remember what it was about. It was another way. It was another way of the way we were doing our outpatient registrations and stuff. And he told me to do some work on it and see what we could do to make it better.
Make it more efficient. Yes, that's clinical practice article. So if you do find a better way to do outpatient registration, you can then go to a nursesjournal.org or write an article. That's called clinical practice article. In other words, you find a better way to reinvent the wheel. So so a research critique, when you look at someone else's study, you want to look at two things. You want to look at sampling. In other words, you want to make sure that the person had used a lot of sampling for that, sampled a lot of people, and you've got to make sure that that research. So when you do that, that's how you could tell if a research study is valid, is sampling. Oh, it's got to be sampling, and it's got to be replicable. So in a research critique, you evaluate a research study based on the following criteria. Sampling. The study must have a large enough sampling to get valid results. A vaccine study needs to include all populations of all ethnicities to reflect the actual population. I remember when I took my research statistics class, and my statistics professor kept saying, sampling, sampling, sampling. When you graduate students write your paper and do your research study, you must have sampling, sampling, sampling. And that's all I remember from that class, is he kept saying samplings, because the more people that you sample, the more valid your answer. So if I only ask two people, do you like Coca-Cola or Pepsi? Then that's not very good. But if I ask the entire county of Los Angeles, then I can get a feel for what the county of Los Angeles, whether they like Coke or Pepsi. So you want a large sampling. Replicable. The methods of your experiment and the results of your experiment must be replicable by other scientists. So let's say I find out I have a certain experiment, and then I come out with a certain result. So let's say COVID-19, and I used a vaccine in a certain formula, and I find that it's 85% efficient in my community. Well, then another doctor in another community who's also doing trials also has to be able to replicate that 85% efficiency in order to validate that your vaccine is efficient. In other words, you have to be able to replicate the same result everywhere. It can't just be a fluke result. So if your research study is replicable, and it's replicable among a large population, then your research study is valid. So it has to be, so how do you know if someone's research study is valid? You have to do the experiment too. In other words, you follow word per word, and you actually do the experiment to see if you can come up with the same results that person did. Then you know that that study is replicable. So finding out whether the research study is good is not just simply your opinion. You actually have to do the work of actually doing the experiment yourself. And that could take a couple of years of someone's time in order to then, oh, so it is replicable. If it's not replicable, let's say your results are totally different, then you would say, okay, his results were a fluke because my results, and when my friend did that same experiment, it's not replicable, okay? So that's what it means. So how do I evaluate a research study? Sampling and replicability, okay? And then have you ever evaluated a research study? Have you ever tried to replicate someone else's results to make sure that your results are the same as his results? Have you ever done that?
No, ma'am.
That's what you do in graduate school. The higher up you go in college, right now when you write papers, you're just writing based on what other people are saying. But as you go up the ladder, as you go to third year, fourth year, fifth year, the higher up you go, you have to come up with your unique research study no one else has done before. How do you know that someone else hasn't done it before? You have to do the research to see what everyone else has already done, and then you add to that pile your unique voice, your unique footprint, okay? And that's how you can tell. And then other people will then have to say, is your research study valid or not? So this is pretty much like the fifth year or fourth year of college. Second year of college, where you are, you're just doing foundational knowledge where you're memorizing a lot of facts. You're memorizing and taking a lot of tests because you're just learning the basics of the field. So the first 2 years is a lot of memorizing, taking a test, and regurgitating what someone, in other words, you're learning what's already been done, okay? It's not interesting until you get to the higher levels when you get to have your unique footprint. That's what's fun about graduate study. Okay, literature review is what Carolyn said earlier when she was talking about her outpatient registration. It means that you have to look through you have to review the literature of other people to see what's already been done so that whatever you do, you know it's unique, okay? It's not something that someone else has already done and that you're plagiarizing without realizing it. And so you're reviewing the body of nursing, so that's a literature review. And also when you do a research paper, you have to do a literature review so that you become knowledgeable on that topic. And so when you get to the fourth year of college, they are going to have you write a paper, give you a whole year to write one paper. That's known as a capstone paper. And you have a whole year of literature review, and then you also have to find your own unique topic. So that's where you go work with your professor, because your professor, he's a body of knowledge himself. So that's literature review. So if you've ever done research for a paper, you've done research review. Literature review. Do you like to do literature review, Anil?
I have never specifically done a literature review, so I really don't know how to answer that question.
And do you have children?
I do.
Have you ever helped your child do research for their school paper or school whatever research paper they're doing? Oh, she's nodding her head.
Yes, I have. Uh-huh.
That's a literature review. When it doesn't matter what the level is, but if you've helped a child look up how to do their paper, and you got to tell the child no Wikipedia allowed, because my nieces and nephews thought Wikipedia was the place to go to do their paper, and I'm like, no, okay. So that's a whole nother it's actually very funny. So that's a literature review. Everyone has done a literature review. They just don't realize it. How do you know what is a good movie to watch? Because you had to read through your whole calendar newspaper. That's also a literature review, okay? So everyone has done a literature review. It's not something so esoteric, all right? So she's nodding her head. Yes, I helped my mother wasn't very good in English, so she wasn't able to really help me write my papers. I actually had to go to the librarian to have someone help me with my papers. But anyway, that's a whole another kind of writing is advocacy writing. Now, advocacy writing.
7 children and 17 grandchildren, and I'd just rather draw blood than do literature.
17 grandchildren. That's when she went, oh yeah, that's a lot. My mother would just teach me how to write good handwriting. She would insist I rewrite a paper because in those days we didn't type, so we had to write it by hand, and I would write it really fast. It would be really sloppy, and my mother made me redo it over and over again until she said it was neat enough or something like that. So that was my mother's contribution to my homework, was neat handwriting, or a paper if you're going to type it with no typos. No, in other words, you don't use whiteout every other word, that sort of thing. It's got to be perfect. That was her contribution. Anyway, so another kind of writing is advocacy writing. So advocacy writing is similar to a persuasive essay, where you want to persuade the reader of your point of view. So when you use your voice as a nurse to advocate a cause, that's advocacy writing. So whenever we take a position on an issue, we are advocating for a cause. This is similar to a persuasive. There are three kinds of persuasive essays that I'm going to introduce in week 9. So there's the persuasive essay where you take a stand. There's a persuasive essay where you call for action. And then there's a persuasive essay that's very similar to a problem solution paper. And so in the take a stand, you simply take a stand on an issue and you convince everyone of your point of view. So that's one kind of advocacy writing, persuasive essay. And then call to action is stronger, where like Martin Luther King did in his I Have a Dream speech, telling everybody should stand up for equal rights. And then advocacy. The third one is problem solution writing, where you're writing a proposal for a law. So let's say there's a problem such as climate change, and then you write a proposal on how climate change could be fixed. You write a proposal on how recycling can help your community. In California, we have not only the recycling box, but we also have an organic waste box. That's new, okay? So advocacy writing is you write for a cause. What kind of trending articles are trending right now in nursing? Anil.
Once again, I have not read any trending articles, but a lot of the focus is, of course, on health practices. So wear a mask, social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one big thing. And in Utah especially, we had, well, not anymore, but recently we had a very large amount of cases as far as the Omicron was concerned. So there were a lot of articles and stuff on that too.
Yeah, so are you for or against wearing masks during a pandemic? So nurses write op-eds or editorials, letters to the editor. You present court testimony using your medical expertise to advocate a cause and to have your voices heard. Nurses fight for health care causes such as health maintenance issues, and lately nurses have written articles begging the public to wear masks and social distance during the pandemic. I wrote this PowerPoint in 2020. I don't know if you can tell that this is an April 2020 kind of, now nurses are advocating people to get vaccinated. So if I want to update this PowerPoint is to advocate that people get vaccinated so they don't get sick as much, so they don't get it as much, and then they don't flood the hospitals. So advocacy writing is when you write something that you believe in. And so here, is Trump or Biden a good president when it comes to treating COVID-19? Have you ever thought about writing about how you feel about an important issue? How can you use your medical expertise as a nurse to tell people they should mask up or get vaccinated? Or you could talk about nurse burnout and what people can do to help nurses out, or be appreciative of nurses. And then another kind of writing is called clinical practice guidelines. This is when a group of experienced nurses create recommendations of patient care all novice nurses must abide by. When a professional organization or government agency creates guidelines for health care, or when experienced nurses create guidelines to guide novice nurses. So this is similar to a process essay, a classification essay, a descriptive essay, and an expository essay, where you're telling someone how to do something, and then you're grouping that into groups. So that's classification essay. So as an experienced nurse, you can join a group of other professionals to write guidelines for where you work and become a leader in your field. For example, the CDC gives guidelines on what people should or should not do during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so in teaching, where I go is TESOL, Teaching English to Students of Another Language, as well as the National English Teachers Association. And both organizations, they give guidelines on what English standards should be used in all the different grades and in all the different situations English teachers have in the classroom. From teaching, oh, Carolyn, you're back. How are you doing?
Yeah, sorry about that, Professor. My dog gave birth to puppies a week ago, and she hears your voice, and she stepped on my phone and shut my phone and everything off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my neighbor's dogs get really separation anxiety city. Oh my gosh, when the owners are gone.
Well, she hears your voice, and since you've never been in my house, she thinks there's a stranger in the house, and she's got those brand new puppies, and she's just pacing back and forth, and I was trying to figure out how to get her to calm down, and then that was it. She shut everything off.
Oh, well, anyway, so we're just talking about clinical practice guidelines, which is when you become a senior nurse, and then you can write guidelines. If you can join an organization, and then you can write guidelines on good nursing practices, you see. And then you could write for a nursing journal, which I'll give at the end. And you can go to nursejournal.org, which is a website, nurses writing for nurses. So as a nurse, you can write about your own experience, and at this point you could just look at the articles that other nurses have written for other nurses. So it's a good side gig if you are tired and you want to just hear how other people have done. And also you can do medical writing as a nurse and that sort of thing. I don't think it makes much money, but it does add to the income, and it's kind of fun. Writing is fun, but it doesn't make much money. That's basically what I found. And so when you advise other nurses, so in a clinical practice article, you advise other nurses a better way to treat patients based on your experience. As you find new ways to treat a patient for a certain ailment, you can write best practices articles in a professional nursing journal to tell other nurses your improved way to treat a certain ailment. Teachers write best practice articles all the time on topics such as better ways to motivate students to learn, how to handle difficult students in the classroom, how to engage students in a boring online classroom. I recently wrote a teaching practice article on student retention online. And so I think I did the webinar with several other teachers, and I was teaching younger teachers, junior faculty, what they should do to retain students, okay? And so that basically is teaching practice article. So you could do that too. So have you ever encouraged, as an experienced nurse, have you ever taught junior nurses better ways to do things?
I'm not a nurse yet, Professor, but I am a phlebotomist, and my sister also works with me at the hospital in the lab, and the two of us sat down and we designed I guess a policy or guideline for the night shift, because they kept getting further and further behind on drawing cardiacs and drawing lactic acids, and it was making them late. So we come up with guidelines and redesigned the night shift, and now it's running much better.
Yeah, so basically the only difference is that you would write an article about it, so that would become a clinical article, a clinical practice article. If you're going to talk about you could write about that, saying as a phlebotomist, and you write for other phlebotomists, that sort of thing. I remember working at a print shop, and the night shift was having trouble keeping up with the day shift. I think it's harder at night because you feel so sleepy. I remember that much. And they made all these spelling mistakes, and I remember they had the order done in the morning when we arrived for our shift at 8 a.m., but the spelling was all wrong. They had to redo the whole run all over again, because I said, oh, night is not spelled N-I-T-E. They made 100 poster copies for a client, with the wrong spelling. And at the time, I was not an editor. And I just simply walked in, and I thought they did it on purpose. I thought it was a joke. Hey, that's funny, you misspelled night, N-I-T-E. And then I laughed, ha ha ha. And they looked horrified because that was not a joke.
Oh my goodness.
And so that was before spell check. And so then they had this policy of having an more experienced editor edit their copy before they run it at night. In other words, because the more experienced people tend to work during the daytime. So that was the new policy, was to have me. That's how I got promoted, actually, because all I did was go, ah ha ha, and now it was just, anyway, that was a long time ago, but I became the spell check person, is what I remember of it. You got to bump and pay. So right before I would leave my shift, they would show me all the night, orders and all the spelling, and I would correct all the spelling, and then they would just run it at night and everything. That never happened again, was have to rerun 100 copies. So we wrote up a policy where we wrote up that, you got to have a spell checker, experienced spell checker during the day, check the night shift work before you go off work. So then we wrote up that policy, and I think Kinko's, I think it was Kinko's at the time, yeah, followed it. That was a long time ago. Anyway, because spelling comes easily to me. So here somebody wrote 3 ways to better treat dementia patients. I am a nurse, and I deal with dementia patients for a living. I have noticed many untrained nurses making mistakes or taking advantage of dementia patients. I believe nurses who deal with dementia patients need to improve their patient care. I want to let other nurses know how to improve their patient care. In my nursing practice, I have noticed that 3 best ways to deal with dementia patients are that one needs to be patient with irritable sundowners, one needs good communication skills, and one needs specialized training and compassion as you deal with lost, scared people who no longer know where they are or what is going on. So this was the introduction paragraph of somebody's paper and somebody's clinical practice paper. Okay, I didn't write then of course she had her body paragraph, but I wouldn't fit on this PowerPoint, so I didn't put it there. The last kind of writing is known as a conference presentation. And so when you present your research findings to a professional nursing conference of nursing peers about ways you can improve your clinical practice, you report the findings of your research study or literature review. So when you present at a conference, you will be writing a research proposal. And when you write the proposal, that is when you use the same essay structure as a business proposal, as a problem solution paper, and as a science paper. And so I will teach you how to write a science paper in my next PowerPoint. But it is with this proposal that the conference committee decides if you are good enough to present at their conference. And so basically you present the problem and then you present the solution. And when you present the problem, you have to present the purpose, the background, and you have to present the context of the problem. Then when you present the solution, you have to present the limitations. Then you got to present the fact that you're the only one that could present, that you have the solution. And then you have to present something like that. So basically, when you present a proposal, and the advantages and the benefits. So I'm going to go over all of that, how you do a proposal. And have you guys ever done a conference presentation? Been at a conference and you presented? What was your topic?
My topic was motivation in the work field for telemarketing.
Order carryout online from Domino's.
Oh, okay. So is all of this very easy for you? You already done all of this?
Nope. I can improve anytime. I just did it on a whim because I was asked to do it right at the last minute.
Yeah, I just did it because it was part of my job. The job that I had before this one, you had to present at 2 conferences per year. And so usually I would just do one conference by myself, and the other one I would combine with somebody else. Share with, in other words, you do a group presentation with some other teachers. That makes it much easier. So you don't have to do all the research. So I did retention for this year I did retention in online teaching webinar. And these days, and after the pandemic, I started doing it more on Zoom. But I used to travel. I used to travel to the destination back in the day. And then the last 3 years, it's been all Zoom-like webinars. It's really strange how the pandemic has changed the nature of conference presentations, because now conference presentations are something like what I'm doing for you. This would be the equivalent. It's not the same, okay? It's not the same as face-to-face. I miss seeing the audience. I miss seeing their, their reaction as I'm talking, stuff like that. But, during 2020, that was the one year I did everything, I think, online. Everything. I mean, there was no traveling in 2020, period. I guess that was the same for everybody else until the vaccines came out. So anyway, I remember I get really nervous. Have you ever done a conference presentation, Carolyn?
No, but whenever I was in medical school I became a medical assistant before I decided to become a nurse. And every 4 weeks we were required as patient education. We were assigned a topic and we had to write something on it, and we had to present it before the class and do it as though we were educating our patients.
Yeah.
And that was every 5 weeks, like clockwork.
Did you enjoy it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I actually I love drawing blood on my patients. I like being one-on-one. I like teaching patients things. I really enjoy that and be able to explain things to them. But that's okay. One patient at a time. Their family, I can do that. But 20 patients sitting there staring at me? No.
Oh,
Can't do
yeah.
it, won't do it.
For me, it's one thing to teach students who don't know any better, so you're not as nervous. But when you're sitting in front of peers, people who know better than you, or people older, and also when I was younger, people older than you who have more experience than you, I remember it being very, very nerve-wracking because these people know more than me. They could critique me. Students don't usually, well, at least in what I teach, ESL students, they don't know enough English to critique me. So although native speakers, they don't know enough about essay structure, but peers. So I remember I had to get over the fear of public speaking in front of peers. So that was my it wasn't writing the proposal. Writing has always come easily to me. That's like second nature. But it was standing in front of all those peers and then seeing if my hands were sweating and if they could feel my nervousness. And then everybody's saying, "Oh no, you look really professional," they would say, but not inside. So that's always the case. Don't let them see you sweat. I believe that was the mantra that my boss said. Here are the parts of a research science paper. And this I'm going to go over in a lot more detail. This goes for the same thing for a business proposal, research proposal, and also when you write your science paper for your capstone paper for bachelor's, your capstone paper for your MA, as well as this is the bare bones of your PhD dissertation, okay? It's pretty much the same structure, okay? Everybody uses this. This is a very universal structure. Once you learn this structure, it also at your level, foundational, like the first two, this helps you read the scholarly sources that you're getting at in the online library. So right now at your level, you're learning to read all of these scholarly sources about the different medical topics. And then everybody has to use this structure to write whatever medical topic they're writing about, whether you're a cancer doctor, a phlebotomist doctor, whatever you are, or if you're a teacher writing about how to plant your flowers in a garden or something. Everybody uses this structure. Just like everybody uses the 5-paragraph essay structure to write ordinary essays. And also I'm going to be teaching you the difference between an essay and a story. People still confuse the two because narrative, that's a different topic. Okay, so parts of a research proposal. The first part is an abstract. Your abstract is a summary of your paper. And the abstract is at the front of the paper. It's in front of the first page. And that's what you read when you go to the online library. You're reading everyone's abstracts. And so usually the abstract is written last. For instance, when I did my research paper, I wrote that last. Because by the time I finished my experiment, I had my results and I had my everything, then I wrote my abstract. I didn't write my abstract first. So basically you write your abstract last after you've done everything. So at the end of the year, it took me a year to do my research study, and I remember everything was due in May. And so I wrote my abstract in late April or something of that nature, like last minute. And so that's the first, so that's about 2 paragraphs where in your abstract, you want to write your description, your methods, literature review, results, and conclusion. All of that has to be included in your abstract. So when people read that 1 paragraph, it's as if they're reading 50 pages or 75 pages of your science study. So that's hard. So it took me 2 weeks, which is a long time for me, to come up with a good abstract, because my professor kept saying, no, you're missing this, no, you're missing that, and stuff like that. So that was hard. Then after you write your abstract, you write a description of your study. What are you studying? What exactly is your topic? Why are you studying this topic? What predictions of results are you going to have for your essay? This is similar to like your introduction paragraph, where you write your introduction and your thesis statement. Okay, that's the description. Okay, and then methods. Oh, this is the most important part. Your methods has to be so exact so that other people can replicate what you did. If your methods, you make a mistake in writing this part, then your whole research study and your reputation down the drain, because everyone will know you as the failed scientist or something. So a lot of people spend most of their time making sure that the methods section is accurate. You have to write every little thing you did. You have to say, I used a big pen that has this much ink in it, or something like that. Everything has to be. So then you have to rewrite. I had to write what books I use. I had to write what transcripts I use. I had to write down what studies I did, and I did all of that sort of. So methods is very, very precise. I spent most of the year trying to perfect my methods. Literature review is where you write down all the articles you wrote. It's kind of like a bibliography, and then you write, for example, Smith Patrick, benefits of exercise. So that would be your kind of like your references. And then you have to write a summary of each article that you read. And so I had like 100 of those, where I had the article, reference citation, then a summary, another reference citation, and a summary. That's a literature review. So it's kind of like a list of what you read. So that proves to the professor and to the audience that you are knowledgeable on your topic. And then results. Okay, so after you write your methods, then in your results you would say vaccine is 95% efficient, or 75% of the people prefer Coca-Cola over whatever. So then you have to write what the results of your in percentages or numbers. 5 out of 10, that would come out to 50%. So that sort of thing. And then conclusion. In your conclusion is your takeaway lessons. How are you going to apply the results of your study to the future? So let's say I did something on this is one of the examples I give. Let's say the results of my the topic is the vaccine safe, the COVID vaccine safe. Methods. I did phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and I did everybody and took the vaccine, and there were mild side effects. Actually mild side effects, that's results. So that's how I did it. Phase 1, phase 2, phase. Did you know that they're doing a vaccine, that COVID vaccine that's going to be good against all variants? UCLA just sent an email about that. They're doing a vaccine. You just take that one vaccine and then forever, no more COVID. So they're still working on that vaccine. That still has it. That's different from the Omicron one. So anyway, so after you'd have your results, and your results would be 95% efficiency. And then conclusion. Well, since my vaccine is 95% efficiency, now it's safe for everybody to use, and now CDC recommends everybody go out and get your vaccine, but old people need to go first, then healthcare workers, and then people with disabilities, then followed by everybody else, which is what they did. So that would be conclusion. And also in your conclusion, you want to write about what other research, more research needs to be done. More research needs to be done on the long-term effects of long-haul COVID. So in your conclusion, you want to write about what other research needs to be done for this topic. And then basically this is the way everybody writes there. So when you know this structure, and you know how to write the structure, this makes it very easy for you to read other people's papers, other people's abstracts, because you understand in your head, the flow chart, just like you understand the 5-paragraph essay structure. And then this kind of structure is very, very similar to a problem solution paper, because here in the abstract, description, and methods, and literature review, that's all problem. Okay, that's called the part of the paper where you state your problem, and then the results, conclusion, and there's also a discussion, so I left that out. So this part, last part, that's known as the solution. So here, this is also the same structure we use when we write a problem solution paper. And a problem solution persuasive essay also follows more or less this structure, okay? That's the third kind of, and that's used a lot when in legal. So if you're going to make a legislative proposal, business proposal, a scientific proposal, all three proposals, or a medical proposal for that matter, all four of them all follow this main, everybody uses this structure of, and also for conference presentations in all fields uses that. This is the standard, and so everybody knows this, you know, and so this is so basic, okay, that everybody already knows this. That's why I introduce it in this class, because in this writing class I just introduced the most basic structures of everything that everybody would know about. You know, it's a given that when you walk into a scientific conference, you know this, like everybody knows how to read or something like that, you see. So that's pretty much, I think that's almost done. And so here I have you ever given a speech? And I think we went through that already. And then as a nurse, you will be using APA. So the reason why I'm doing APA in all my different presentations is because at the second half of this class, you're going to be focused more on APA than you are. The first half of this class, we're learning essay structure, and then the second half of this class, we're going to be learning APA. Because when you write that long proposal, you're going to be using APA as your notation system. And so APA stands for the American Psychological Association, and it's used in social sciences, business, and business. And so when we have a direct quote in an APA, that's when you cite your source word per word from the author. And so when you have a direct quote, you have to have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark, and then you have to have the author, the date, and the page number, okay? If there's no page number, then paragraph number. And if there's no author, then you write website name, okay? That sort of thing. So, and if there's no date, you write N.D. Did I say that too fast? Do I need to say that again?
We talk a lot this fast.
No? Yes? You got it? When you have a paraphrase quote, that's when you're summarizing the source. But even if you're summarizing a source and putting it in your own words, you still need to cite the source because you got that information from somewhere else. If you said most people like to drink Coca-Cola rather than Pepsi, how do you know that? Where'd you get that information? Even if you leave out all the statistics, you still have to cite where some poor schmuck had to do research for 2 years asking everybody in his neighborhood, which do you like better, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, you know? So you want to give that schmuck, no, you got to give that researcher his due, okay? If you don't cite something, then it comes out as plagiarism and you're stealing someone else's information. And that in a school, if you're caught plagiarizing, my other school anyway, they would expel you, especially if you get caught 3 times plagiarizing. And in my other school, we use Turnitin as a plagiarism checker. I think this school uses Unicheck, I think, something like that. And so that's what Unicheck is there for, to make sure that you're not plagiarizing. In other words, if you use properly APA, then you're not plagiarizing. If you use it, most students do it accidentally because they didn't know they were supposed to cite that source. And so when you have a paraphrase quote, you don't need quotation marks. You just need to write the author's name and the date. And if no author's name, you write the website. You write the website name and then you write the date. If you don't have a date, you write N.D. Okay? So a quote, these direct quote and paraphrase quote are known as in-text citations, and they occur inside the body of your paper. And so that's the difference between an in-text citation and a reference citation. A reference citation comes at the end of your paper, where you have a list of all the sources in alphabetical order of what you used in your paper. So for your essay 2, you'll be required to have at least one APA source and one APA in-text citation. For the essay 1, you don't have to unless you want to. Now, some students actually challenge themselves, and as they post, as you can read it on the week 5 forum. As you read other people's papers, some students did add in APA. So if you want to, you can learn from other students how they use APA so that you can apply that for your second essay. Because in the second essay, everybody has to have APA. Okay? And so when you have a reference citation,
Suspicious.
oh, what's that? So reference citation is at the end of the paper. You got to have the author's name, you got to have the date, you got to have the article or book name, and the article or book name has to be italicized. The name of the publication or the web address, not the web address, the website name. Okay, the name of either the name of the publication or website name. And then you have retrieved. If you're doing a website, today's date. Retrieve today's date from web address. You know, like retrieved February 2nd from www.americancancersociety.org or something like that. So that's a website reference citation, and it needs to be in alphabetical order, and you need to have left hanging indent. That's the opposite of. And another thing that I'm noticing on the rough drafts is that people are not indenting. You need to have a double space, and you need to indent the first line of every paragraph. So that's basically that. And also you need to have a thesis statement and topic sentences that match the thesis. So Anil, you were not the only one to make that mistake. As you read through the week 5 forum and you notice how everybody else is making the same mistake you did, it makes you feel better, doesn't it? Missouri loves company. Yeah, you kind of look and go, oh, look, X, Y, and Z made that mistake. Oh, look, she made that mistake too. Look at all the colored ink the teacher had to put on her paper. I'm not the only one that did that. You see, we are all 5 years old inside, okay? No matter how dignified and adult we put on our blazers, you know, inside is that 5-year-old going, nah, you did it too, or whatever. Anyway, so what is it? How to use APA. And then when do we use APA? We use APA to cite numbers, dates, percentages, statistics, figures, medical facts, historical facts, or any unknown or uncommon knowledge. Even if you put the source material in your own words, you still need to cite the source. So in 1865, the American Civil War ended. Where is the in-text citation? Right afterwards, you have to write in Smith, 2021, page 22. 70% of vapors die of lung cancer at an early age. Okay, then after that, you need to have Smith, 2021, page 22. 500, oh, this is out of date. It's more like 900,000 people have died of COVID-19 in America. Then you have to write in where you got that. That's how you can tell this is an older PowerPoint. It is 400, okay, that's sad. Research shows how many Americans are obese. So from 1962 until now, people have gained at least 30 pounds. So now they got to make bigger coffins, bigger ambulances, bigger everything, bigger beds, and stuff like that, because people are so fat. And also the reason why they're fat is because the restaurant portions are so much bigger. A large drink in 1962 is equivalent to a small drink today. This is why people have gotten fat, because the restaurant, anyway, that's what the article was talking about. So where are the, we can't simply say research shows. Who did that research? Where is your date? You're supposed to say Smith, Dr. Smith, 2022 states, and then you have page 22. So you have to state. So whenever you see someone say research shows, like on a commercial, you know not to quote totally believe them, because they did not fully state who did that research. That's how come we don't believe Wikipedia, because they're missing their in-text citations. Anybody can put in anything. And you use only one in-text citation. you use only one in-text citation per paragraph. And so don't worry, this is going to end soon. The torture of this lecture will end pretty soon. And so when we write...
You're fine. You're fine, Professor.
And so what exactly is pie structure? I taught Anil this twice. So what's pie structure?
Main point, the index text, and explanation of the quotation.
Have you been using this?
I used it in the
Oh yeah, that's right.
revised version.
Yes, that's right, you did. Boy, it's so... Oh yeah, no, I'm not supposed to discuss that. You wrote a very good paper. Yes. And so did you, Carolyn. So I'm proud of that. Both of you are doing really well in your paper writing. No, I cannot say you're great. So when we do pie structure, P stands for main point from the thesis statement. I is the in-text citation of less than 3 lines. If you're going to have more than 3 lines, then you need something called a block citation, where you don't need quotation marks. You just create its own paragraph, and it becomes a block citation. And then you write in, after that, you're going to write the author, date, and page number. But I discourage people from using block citation because it disrupts the flow of the essay. So you can use a block citation, but only if absolutely necessary. So I encourage students to have an in-text citation of less than 3 lines so it doesn't interrupt the flow of your paragraph, and use only one in-text citation per paragraph. Another thing I want to say about paragraphs is make sure that each paragraph has 5 to 7 sentences, because we're writing essays, not stories. This is where people confuse stories with essays. In an essay, the main purpose of an essay is to inform, persuade, and to entertain. And so in each case, you want to do it as short as possible. When we're writing a creative story, that's a different set of rules. You can be as long-winded as you want because you want to make the action suspenseful or something. That's a different kind of writing. And so in this class, we focus more on academic writing, where we want to inform, we want to persuade people of something, not so much make everybody so like moved, you know. In creative writing, it's all about emotion, pathos. But in academic writing, you have to have ethos, pathos, and logos. And that's the main difference between creative writing. Pathos meaning your emotions, dealing with your emotions, getting people to feel. Okay, when you watch a good movie, you want to feel excited, you see. You want to be part of that action. That's creative writing. And poetry, songs, all that goes in creative writing, which is actually more fun to teach and to do than academic writing, according to my kids, my students that I used to teach. So I got way off topic. This is the reason why we have the 5-paragraph essay structure and pie structure, so you people don't go rambling off into, it's so easy to ramble. So that's pie structure, and you just use one. Here's an example of pie structure. Many movie stars and athletes vape each year. Many people think vaping is safe because you're just emitting water instead of smoke. So that is the main point from the thesis. Now you have your one in-text citation. 75% of people who vape die of lung cancer by the age of 60. So now you have one I for in-text citation, and then you put in, notice how the in-text citation is inside the paper. Then you have to have the date, the author's name, the date, and the page number. It seems a majority, and then you write your 5 sentences defining this in-text citation. It seems that a majority of people die of cancer at a really young age if they start vaping at an early age. Many people do not realize the dangers of vaping because vaping comes in many flavors like chocolate or strawberry. In fact, vaping is just as dangerous as cigarette smoking, since many people die so young before they retire from work. And also, if you're breathing in the smoke of the vapor, you're breathing in. That's like breathing in secondhand smoke. It's actually worse than secondhand smoke, somebody said, and it's because of all the nicotine. So I recommend young people not to start vaping if they want to live a long life. And then I didn't put in the transition. Not only does vaping cause lung cancer, but it also causes stomach cancer. So not only, but also is a good way for you transition into the next paragraph, which would have been about you also get a different kind of cancer with vaping. Okay, not only but also. So I didn't put that in because I'm not, I'm just using one slide. So that would be your body paragraph, one body paragraph that you're going to have to put in for your second essay, at least one body paragraph using pie structure. And that's it. Now we get to the conclusion. So at the heart of nursing, writing, as I said before, so when you do nursing, you're just translating all the complicated medical articles into something simpler. And so when I give you an example in week 11 of my master's thesis, I'm not going to give you my entire master's thesis because that would take too long. I actually will give you a very simplified version just so you could understand the structure of it. I'm not going to give you all 85 pages because that will take like forever. So that's the kind of writing when you're going to either teach or you're going to either write as a medical writer or you're going to write a paper. You have to write a simplified version because people don't have all day to, that sort of thing. And so when we study different essay types in this class, like narrative, these are the 8 types of essays, by the way, that's found in English. For every field, you've got the narrative essay, comparison contrast essay, process essay, classification essay, definition essay, descriptive, argumentative, persuasive, cause and effect, evaluation, reflective essay, and then you add in, for nursing articles, advocacy essay, clinical practice, clinical best practice articles, literature review, and research critiques, as well as research proposals and conference presentations. But the most common one that we don't do in this class is the problem solution paper. That is that's the crown of when you do it in business, legal, and medical, when you do a proposal or at a conference presentation. And these kinds of essays are used everywhere. And so and also I'm going to go over business communication, and I will also make the connection between all of these different essays. All of these different essays are also used in a much shorter way in business.
My doctors recommend Tylenol.
So I will go over that when I do. I think that's week 6. Was that week 7? I don't remember. When I do business communication, because I used to teach business communication at my other class. Now I gotta shorten 8 weeks into one PowerPoint, and I know I said that in the last one. I know that sounds familiar. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Anyway, because I feel like thinking, wait a minute, that's an echo. I said that before, and I said that before. But I was reading in the book, Make It Stick. You have to repeat yourself as a teacher so that it makes it stick for the student. If you just say it one time, people will just come and forget. You have to say it over and over and over again to make it. That's the name of the book, Make It Stick, So I got to repeat it because the human brain forgets very easily, but that's a whole different. Anyway, so that's it for this particular, this is the book I got it from. So I will leave it. So I just had this is a very shortened version of the entire book. So if you're interested in reading the book, this is written by a nurse called Cheryl Beck and another nurse called Thomas Long, and it's Writing in Nursing, A Brief Guide, Oxford University Press. It's a very good book, and it's very short. I found another book that was much longer, so you can find many books on Amazon that deal with, especially the higher you go up, and if you go up to masters in nursing, then you can become like a doctor. Because my nurse practitioner, she went up to her master's, and then she's kind of like my doctor and stuff. She can also prescribe medicine and everything at that level. So she's just like a regular doctor. Everybody sits outside her office. One person needs a shot, another person has pimples, another person needs a physical. I mean, it's just like a regular doctor sitting outside at CVS. Anyway, and they work in hours. Who wants to be a nurse practitioner?
Do not forget him.
Then you can be my doctor, you see. It's not for like it's not like if you got cancer or something. Then you got to go to an oncologist. So it's just like, but they make, according to nurses.org, nurse practitioners make a lot of money, more than teachers. So, I got a master's, but I don't make that much money. So I majored in the wrong thing. Anyway, so that's it for this. And for the next, I usually get more students as quiz prep.
Either directly.
People want to get good quiz prep. So I usually get the most students
That's the
when
time.
I do quiz prep. So I think next week is going to be quiz prep for week 7. That's going to be your last quiz. How are you doing on your grammar quizzes? Are they easy?
They seem like they are. I mean, I'm just surprised that I'm making the grades that I'm making, Professor, and I don't think I would make them without your help, because English was never my subject in class. I had severe anxiety in English in high school, and it took my instructor. She had to verbally, orally give me all of my exams just so I could walk the graduation line.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah. Oh, and Anil, I got to remember to look at your quiz. You can email me to remind me also. I had a boss who said, email me and remind me to do such and such. And I remember we were like, we got to remind the boss to do something? Usually the boss is there to order you around and tell you to do things. And we actually had an older boss who didn't mind us telling him, reminding him, don't forget the meeting is at such a... We were telling him when his meetings were. Okay, because he would forget.
I emailed you before the class.
Okay. Did I see it? Did I answer it? I might not have. I might not
Well,
have.
probably not, because it was only like 5 minutes or 10 minutes before the class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I will look over that. That's one of the ones I was supposed to have. Okay, that's never mind. So if you have no more questions on your paper or on anything else, we can end it here. I was going to wait for any students who wanted to come in with questions, but I guess not. So
I have a question.
okay, go ahead.
This is with regards to the discussion assignment. Can we discuss that?
Sure.
Okay. So on the assignment, I was unsure exactly what you wanted, because let me go to the rubric on that really quick. Okay, here we are. Okay, so it says assignment, narrative essay draft. It says in your initial post, submit the first draft of your narrative essay. Okay. And I was noticing pretty much everybody just posted their initial essay. But then after that, it says address the following in your peer review responses. So
Yeah,
want that?
it's a two-part assignment. So
Yeah.
the first part is by Wednesday you have to submit your rough draft. Then you have until Sunday to peer review, and you're going to look at two other people's papers, and you're going to peer review them. You're going to say, Jonathan, you did a really great job on your essay. You have until Sunday to do this. This is the whole, what is a peer review? That's what I did that PowerPoint for, is to tell you, that's the second half, it's how to do the second half of the assignment. Everybody knows how to just upload and put their initial rough draft. Now the second half, now that we're on Wednesday actually, that means that from Wednesday to Sunday, everyone's going to read everyone's papers, and you're going to comment, and you're going to tell Joan, boy, you have a nice thesis statement, but you got it in the wrong place. Didn't Professor H say you're supposed to put it in the last sentence? Not supposed to be the first sentence. Or you're going to say, oh, Professor H, didn't she say you're supposed to have 5 sentences above your thesis, not just your thesis? Things like that. So you make comments on how other people can improve their paper, and that's why I did that whole week 3, what is a peer review PowerPoint on that sort of thing.
Right. I was not unsure as to whether you wanted other people's review or you wanted a review of your own paper, because one of the
you don't have to review your own paper unless you want to. Unless you're asking, you could, in other words, if you were asking, you would say, can I get help? You could write at the end of your rough draft. This is one of the, you could say, I'm having trouble with my thesis statement. Can anybody help me write a better thesis statement? Okay, you can write that after you post your rough draft at the end and say, I'm having trouble with my topic sentences. Can somebody help me match my topic sentence to, and then then you'll get, that's the whole purpose of peer review. Someone who's a stronger writer, or in week 7, week 11, I don't know how to do APA. What's the difference again? And do I need any more in-text citation? Can anyone look through my paper and make sure my in-text citations are all correct, whatever? You know, that sort of thing. So yes, you can do that if you want. That helps other people.
Yeah, the
I helped
reason why
other people. Sorry.
uh-huh. The reason why I was unclear about it is because one of the things that says there is explain how you will ensure that your own essay is well edited as a suggestion to your classmates.
Yeah, you could do that. Though the instructions try to give you different options on what you can say from Wednesday to Sunday. So you have the option of commenting on your own paper. Then you have so you can use up one post in which you comment, I really have weaknesses in X, Y, and Z. And then in order to help other people know what they should say, you can have an open-ended question like, well, since I have such trouble with X, Y, and Z, can you guys help me out? Okay, after you edit your own paper, you see all your weaknesses, and then you ask, this is I think this is known as, I forgot already, but there are 4 kinds of evaluations: appreciation, coaching, mentoring. Yeah, mentoring. Mentoring is when you ask a question and you want people to help you out. So that's mentoring. So the other kinds is coaching and appreciation, coaching, mentoring, and evaluation. And I do the evaluation, which is grading. Appreciation is, you got a great paper. Mentoring is, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And coaching is, they don't ask for help, but you just give your 2 cents.
Right.
Those are the 4 different kinds of peer review feedback you can give for the second half of this assignment. So
right. I was just not sure whether you wanted it on your own assignment or somebody else's, but you made that clear. So I just need to read other people.
You can do both. So
Yeah,
if you
because
do it on your own assignment, that means you're asking others for help for your assignment.
Well, what I did was I actually wrote it down. I just didn't post it yet because I wasn't sure, but I wrote a paragraph based upon these things, and I basically wrote like, okay, with my essay, this was wrong, and Professor H asked me to fix this, and this is what I fixed and how I fixed it, and so forth. So that's what I wrote. But
and then if you want to bring, you can leave an open-ended question at the end of your post. You could say, so John, did you have the same mistakes I did? This encourages other people to respond to your post. This moves the conversation along. If you just simply say, these were my mistakes, period.
Yeah, excuse me, Professor. My boss just paged me for Code Purple. I have 2 minutes to get to the hospital to help out. Is there anything else you need me for?
No, you feel free to leave. If you have no more questions, you can leave. So you have a good day.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Okay. So what was I going to say? Yeah. So do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's it, because I was reading some of the reviews on my essay, and so I think I'm going to post what I was thinking of posting otherwise as a reply to that person, which it's a good assessment of what I did. So I think I'm going to go with that portion. I just wasn't sure if my assignment was incomplete because I didn't evaluate my own essay, so that's why.
Yeah, I didn't talk about that as much, but if you leave open-ended questions at the end of each post, that would encourage people to answer your question, like, so John, did you like my thesis statement? Or something. In other words, after you put your rough draft, you can have a series of questions like, how do you like my rough draft? Is it good? How can I improve my paper? So after your whole, you write, so then you can invite people to that sort of thing. I guess I could put up a sample. I didn't think to do that, of open-ended questions for people to ask. But that's basically what the instructions were trying to do. They were trying to give you a bunch of, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, or you can do that, that, and that. Just make sure you post that by Sunday.
Yeah, I will certainly do that, because I still have to read everybody else's assignment. I haven't read any one of them yet. So
it takes a lot of time for me to color code everybody's papers. This is the first week, and by week 7, everyone gets it. And so then it's more like color coding all the APAs. And then by week 9, I don't have to color code anything anymore because everyone knows their APA, everyone knows their essay structure. And week 9 and 11 is more of a enjoy the ride while it lasts before the next bunch of students come in and you got to redo the whole thing, that kind of stuff.
Right. No, I read your reviews on some of the papers.
Yes.
Yeah, so I saw what you had written. So
Yeah, I pretty much, have you noticed I pretty much repeat myself over and over again?
yeah, well,
Once you
like
notice that, that means you're getting it. That means it's become old hat. If you're going, huh? Well, that's different than what you said before. Okay, then you still need more instruction. But if you're
right.
like, didn't she say that already? Oh, I already understand that. Then you know that you're on your way to mastery, and then you're ready to learn something else. You know, especially if you're
Yeah.
starting to think she's repeating her. Didn't she say that last time? No, she said that the time before that. That's because I did say it the time before that and the time. According to that book, Make It Stick, you're supposed to repeat yourself. I remember one teacher said, "Isn't that boring to repeat yourself like a parrot so many times? Won't students think you're being redundant?" And then the teacher said, "No, because most students, it's going in one ear and out the other type thing."
I remember. I can relate to what you said about make it stick. When I was in school, I used to. Well, I studied in a convent first, and then after that, I went to a private school. And I had this British principal, Brimblecombe. I still remember his name. And every Friday, I mean, I grew in a school where you have to have a 7 a.m. assembly,
Wow.
and so everybody had to be present for the assembly. If you were late, you got sent home, which was very embarrassing. And so every Friday assembly, he would say the same speech, word for word. Okay, and it's been what, 30 years now. I still remember that same speech word for word because he would say it over and over and over again
Well,
every
it's just like
Friday.
it's
Yep.
just like the Pledge of Allegiance and
Uh-huh.
also the Star Spangled Banner. When I was growing up, every single day you did the Pledge of Allegiance and you sang to the Star Spangled Banner in
Uh-huh.
elementary school. I don't
Yeah.
know if they still do that now, but that's why to this day I can sing the Star Spangled Banner and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I think it's good for, well, anyway, it was good for me because then I learned, you instill in kids the patriotism, but I don't know if they still do that these days.
Well,
I think I'm dating, I get the feeling I'm dating myself.
there's, I guess this would go on the wrong side. It'll become a political discussion because I don't know about other places, but there are some, including some schools in Utah, where the Pledge of Allegiance, you cannot say,
Oh yeah,
um,
you're right.
yeah,
It does become political.
yeah,
All I'm saying is they did it
uh-huh.
so many times that
Yeah, the repetition,
I
exactly.
can, so there's actually a book called Make It Stick. That's the name of the book.
I I
And
will I will get it.
it actually teaches teachers how to
Okay.
make it stick, but I think it also teaches learners how to
Uh-huh.
learn.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So
Make
that
it
was the book that we teachers were reading. The boss at this school loves that book, so, and it's got a catchy title too, Make It Stick.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
and also, I always also tell students, the more you read, the better you write. Because what I wish I had the time to do is teach students, you can't emulate or it's good to emulate the writing style of your favorite author, because in other
Mm.
countries, that is how they teach writing style.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember in France, there's a book in which someone wrote one paragraph about a guy getting onto a bus. He wrote it in 20 different styles of different authors. This is how Charles Dickens would have written a guy getting on a bus. You would have had 20 pages of description. Finally, the very last sentence would be, the guy gets on the bus. That's Charles Dickens. Ernest Hemingway would be simply, the guy gets on the bus, period. That's called writing
Right.
style. Who are you going to emulate? And usually people
Mhm.
emulate someone in between, Ernest Hemingway and Charles Dickens. You know. And
Right, right, exactly. No, I agree with you there.
it's
Hmm.
not that you're emulating their what exactly word for word their story. That's plagiarism. But the style in which do you use a lot of adjectives? Do you use a lot of description, or do
Hmm.
you go straight to the chase and just tell the bone story? Or do
Hmm.
you use a lot of dialogue? Some authors so that kind of emulation is encouraged because that improves your writing if you
Hmm.
can reverse engineer what someone else wrote. So if you read a magazine article, where did that person place the thesis statement? How did that person develop their topic sentences? And what kind of writing is it? Is it process writing, classification writing? Did they mix and match their different kinds of rhetorical styles? And when you can reverse engineer other people's writing, that's how you improve your own writing. And the only way you can develop your writing style is through a lot of reading, and a lot of reading, and a lot of reading. And in that way, if you can also increase your vocabulary, you know? So if you say that the woman ran down the beach in a diaphanous thin gown through which Duke so-and-so from his cliff could see her rapturous body glimmering in the moon or whatever, right away I knew the word diaphanous meant thin, see-through, okay? I didn't even need a thin and see-through in the sentence. I just needed so I remember on SAT, they asked, what is diaphanous? I didn't have to memorize off a list. Actually, for SAT, I didn't memorize any vocabulary list because I was reading all of these books. And I knew, as soon as I saw the word diaphanous, I remembered that scene. This woman, very thin, you know, I forgot why she was running down the beach in the moonlight, but obviously the Duke liked her and fell in love with her, thought she was so beautiful, and at that moment decided that woman will be my wife, or something like that, within the storyline. I used to read 10 novels per week from the library.
Wow.
Yeah, every week from the library, I would take out 10 books until I read the author's entire shelf. And so what I would do, shelf after shelf after shelf, because it was so much fun for me to read. I didn't really like video games like other kids. The other kids are like this. Ding, 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 ding. Like my brother, oh, I can't eat dinner yet. I'm on skill 5. And then my mother would just take the plug out saying, you're on skill 0 now. Go eat dinner. Hey, no, and his whole everything just disappeared, and he would get so upset. I remember. And then it's either that or I take away your whole computer set. Go eat dinner. Yes, Mom. Yes, ma'am. And then suddenly he's obedient. And then later when he went back to the game, and they're like, what happened to you? You just disappeared. Oh, my mother pulled the plug. And all the other players could totally relate. Yes. We always make sure we finish before dinner, before the mother comes. It's like so funny. But I wasn't into that scene. I was more into reading. So, you know, majored in literature, and that's that. Anyway, so if you have no more questions, then I will let you go. Okay?
Yeah. But once again, I did email you with regards to that because
the quiz? Yes, I will. The week 5 quiz. Okay, so I will give you credit.
In the week quiz prep on the announcement page. Okay, your video there, the YouTube video there, about 22 minutes into the video, there's a question there that says, okay, here's 4 sentences, where's the quotation marks? And we did have the same thing in class as well, because it said Devil Wears Prada is not italicized, so all of them are wrong. So that's why I put it as Jason
None of
Bourne.
the above, and they didn't have that as the answer. That means that they changed the answer. That happens when another teacher would say, well, I don't agree with that answer, so you need to change it. And then I didn't, you know, because the last time I looked at that quiz, that was the correct answer. So that means somebody changed the answer. So
I mean, if you go with just the question alone, it says, where are the quotation marks supposed to be? It doesn't specify whether the sentence structure is correct or not, you know? So if you just go with the quotation marks, then obviously I'm wrong. But if we go with sentence structure, then none of the sentences are correct.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at that question again. Usually if too many teachers comment on the same question back and forth, they end up deleting the question. Which is what happened with A Beautiful Mind. Did you notice A Beautiful? I didn't find it.
Yeah,
anymore.
it didn't show
my
up.
Guess
Exactly.
my guess is too many teachers commented, no, you got to do it this way. No, you got to do it that way. And after a while, they got tired of trying to fix it. One teacher says it's this way and has evidence. Another teacher says it's that way and has, oh, let's just delete this question altogether. So I think A Beautiful Mind just disappeared. So I think Jason Bourne is on its way out as well. If too many teachers complain about it. Anyway, so bye, Jason Bourne. No, I'm just kidding. So if you have no more questions, I have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So
All right,
I'll
ma'am.
see you next week then.
Same bad time.
Same bat time, same bat place.